the shop of Team MGR. I'm the Junkman, and today we're going to look at how to adjust a motorcycle clutch. On today's modern motorcycles, there's two basic ways the clutch is actuated, either by a cable or hydraulically. We're going to look at both. The first type of clutch we're going to look at is the hydraulic type, and it's pretty simple. It works just like your front brake, where you have a master cylinder, and then instead of a caliper down low, you have what's called a slave cylinder. What happens is when you pull a clutch lever in, fluid travels out of the master cylinder, down the line, down to the master cylinder, and disengages the clutch. When you release it, the fluid travels back up to the master cylinder and it releases the clutch. The benefit of this style of clutch mechanism is that it is automatically adjustable. When the clutch plates wear, the little piston moves in, the fluid moves down in the reservoir, and when the clutch heats up and swells, the fluid can move back and forth to keep that proper tension on that push rod that actuates the pressure plate on your clutch. The only basic thing you need to worry about on this type of setup is, just like your braking system, you need to flush and bleed this. A good recommendation is about every 2 years. If you're using it a lot, and you may want to do it every 1 year. Typically, it uses the same type of fluid as your brakes do, but check your manual, because some manufacturers use a different type of fluid just for the clutch system. Let's move along to probably what's more common to what people refer to when adjusting the clutch, is a cable-operated clutch. It's where the lever is physically and mechanically attached to the clutch actuating mechanism via a cable. And there's a couple adjustments along the way, and that's what we're going to take a look at. Alright, I've taken off the handguard to give a little bit more clarity here. And this clutch, the plates have worn, so it's very tight up here at the lever. You should have a little bit of play, somewhat about 1/8 of an inch. Should have about that much play. Well, we don't. What you're looking for is a little bit of play before it actually starts pulling the clutch in, and that's kind of a feel. But right now I can tell that this is a little too tight. So first thing we need to do is back off this jam nut and screw the adjuster in. As you can see, wow, that makes a big difference. Now, it's best to screw it, get a lot of play in there. That's too much, obviously, but get a lot of play in there. Now, my clutch is in good shape, the cable's in good shape, but if your cable is stretched, there's an adjustment on some bikes down by the clutch actuating arm that you may have to adjust to get a little bit more slack. But in this case, we're going to be able to do all of our adjustments right here. So we have it really loose, so we want to just back our adjuster out, keep checking our adjustment. You know what? To me, that's about where I like it. Right there. You want to pull it a few times, double check, run it through its cycle. And actually, you might have to ride the bike just a little bit just to make sure like the plates are seated and everything. But usually doing this will get you right in the ballpark. Okay, we're really good. And contrary to popular belief, you don't need to crank on this. Just enough so it ain't going to vibrate vibrate loose, and then it'll screw up your adjustment. So we're pretty good right there. Now, had we needed to adjust down by the clutch actuating mechanism, there's a couple of jam nuts down there. Some bikes have an adjustment mid-cable, and I'm going to show you what that looks like on a different bike. Now here's another clutch adjustment. This is on my Buell. Much more Harleys are similar to this as well, where they don't have an adjustment nut up on the perch. They have this adjuster in the cable, where you have a jam nut and this part of the cable that screws and either shortens or lengthens the cable based on the clutch wear. So this is a periodic adjustment, just like on a dirt bike. Now that we went through some of the basic adjustments of the cable, or bikes that have only an adjuster for the cable. There are a few bikes like on this pit bike engine that has another adjustment along with the cable. Some vintage bikes have this. Vintage street bikes have an adjustment such like this. I'm going to show you on a Harley Davidson style transmission. They also have a similar type of adjustments, but it's a little bit different itself. So we're going to go through how to do that. For this type of adjustment, the first thing you need to do is, with the cable adjuster up on the perch, is to loosen it all the way. You want as much slack into the cable before doing this adjustment, if your bike has this style of clutch adjustment. If you look at it here, this one's actually adjusted properly, but you see there's just the tiniest amount of play right there, and that's about all you want. You want it tight, you don't want too much play. But first things first, we gotta loosen our jam nut. Let's unscrew that. And then there's this center set screw that we need to, see how loose that is? It's kind of a feel. You got to get a feel for it. As you can see, now we're way too loose. I can feel when it actually pushes on the clutch, and that's too loose. So what we're looking for here is we're going to turn this set screw, turn it in until we just feel some resistance. And you might have to try this a couple times and see it's pretty good. I mean, you can just practice by, let's tighten it way too much, and there's no play. And you can see what too little again does. So you want to just tighten that up. And you can kind of sneak up on it. And that feels pretty good. Now, the tricky part is, tighten your jam nut. You need to tighten the jam nut so it won't vibrate loose without turning the set screw. So you need to have your screwdriver in there. You don't need to over tighten this, but you do need it tight enough so that it'll hold the jam nut where you want it. Now that you have this properly set, you can go up and adjust the cable like we showed you earlier. One thing I should note with this type of adjustment, tightening that set screw too tight is actually disengaging the clutch. Too tight and you'll burn your clutch plates up prematurely. And last but not least is the clutches found on a Harley style transmission. This is on a Buell, but basically the same thing. Another adjustment similar to what I showed before is behind what they call the derby cover, because it kind of looks like a derby hat when you take it off. There's a little adjustment behind here that I'm going to show you how to do. Just with the other type of clutch adjustment, this one works similar, except for instead of a jam nut, it has this nut with a spring on it, which to hold it on, compresses against the cover that goes on here, and then it fits into this hex pattern that's in the clutch actuating assembly. There's a couple little ball bearings in here that they ride on ramps, and as you pull the clutch, it depresses the diaphragm spring, which then releases the pressure plate and allows the clutch to slip when you want to change gears. Basic principle is the same. Is you'll loosen this all the way out and then tighten it back up till you get just a little bit of friction. Like I said, it's kind of a feel, and you want to do this with the cable fully loose at first and adjust that properly, then go back to your cable and adjust for your free play at the lever. And if you can't get this adjustment right on, so this will slide right back on because there's flat sides in here, and on this adjustment you need to loosen it just enough so you can get this in there. You never want to tighten it up, because then that's putting pressure on, there's a little bearing or bushing that presses on this diaphragm spring, and if it's slightly pressing on there, it'll just prematurely wear out, well, the clutch plates, the spring, the bushing in there. And so you don't want to do that. You want to always err on the side of being a little bit loose with this particular adjustment. Well, I hope you learned a little bit about how clutch adjustments are done on various different types of setups. I'm the Junkman. Until next time, keep on riding. I guess another little fun fact about this type of clutch setup on Harleys or Harley-style transmissions and primaries is, you've always heard about Harley dripping oil, leaving oil marks on the driveway. Well, really that's not from the engine oil. That's typically from the transmission, because you have a place here it could leak, a place here it could leak, and then of course this gasket surface all the way around this primary that can leak. And think about it, when you're on the side stand, the oil level is probably right about here, and so you have all this area that it can leak. It's setting straight up and down the bike is right now, and the oil level is actually right here, just touching the bottoms of the clutch plate, which is the proper level, and actually that's how you should properly check this type of transmission. But it's not a design I particularly am fond of, just because of that fact. There's just too many places that it can leak. The adjustment is, I think, too complex. It could be a lot simpler, as you've seen on other bikes that I've done right now. So it's basically the same as the pit bike engine, just a little bit different design.